What's up, everybody? I just wanted to give you all a quick heads up before listening to this episode. This episode is one of our best. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of connection issues throughout, and so there's a little bit of static. And just as I was editing it, I'm like, there's no way for me to just like clip every part where there's just a little bit of static and not lose a lot of really good content. And so I'm just going to recommend real quick before listening that if you play it on double speed, you basically can't hear it at all. So I would just recommend doing that real quick. You're still going to love the episode. There's so much good insight there, and we hope you enjoy it. All right, welcome to episode 13 of the Relationship Comeback Podcast, the number one podcast in all of America, all of South America, all of the world. This is the best of the best. And again, I tell y'all every time we're just getting better. We have a celebrity on today. This is quite a big deal. We have Alyssa Chapman, star of Provo's Most Eligible. Alyssa, say hi to all of your fans.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on, Carter. This is going to be a good time, hopefully a good discussion.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to be able to pick her brain a little bit on this kind of crazy world of reality dating. But before we dive into that, Alyssa, do you want to give us a little bit of your background and maybe any unique perspectives that you bring to kind of this dating culture world of Utah, Arizona, Idaho, the Latter-day Saint belt?
Yes. Yeah, so I'm Alyssa. I'm originally from Mesa, Arizona. So I wasn't born and raised in Utah. I moved to the Provo area about a year and a little bit ago. So I've had quite a bit of dating experience while I've been here. Um, I'm 23, which in Utah County is considered old to be single. And so I've kind of been trying to branch out, find different ways to meet people. I think if you're not meeting people and dating, like dating's not going to go very well for you because you're not like meeting all of the single people. I work in the fashion industry, women's fashion, so I don't meet men through work, and I'm not a student, so I don't meet men that way either. So it's kind of been interesting, my just personal background with dating as I've been living here, just trying to figure out where to meet people and how to date organically. I don't love dating apps. I'm on them, but I don't love them. So, yeah, it's definitely an adventure.
Yeah. No, I think anyone like over the age of 21 that lives in Utah that's still single, they have some sort of empathy, but my man, this is really hard. And then like I feel like each year you get older, you just level up in that empathy of like this is really hard. So you're in like stage 3 or level 3 of like this is tough. So
Yep.
congratulations for making it this far.
Thank you. And honestly, like 23 is still, I'm still young. I'm cognitively aware of that too. So,
Yes, no, but it's still, we got to give ourselves compassion and grace. It's still hard. So I appreciate you being willing to come on here. And again,
yeah.
my hope in this is again, I'm 26. I'm way past being sick of this, and so I just want to try and change the culture in any way I can. And I think our conversation today, if any of my episodes, this is probably the most pertinent to our culture and society as a whole because so many people are invested in reality dating shows. So, really quickly, do you kind of want to explain your overall thoughts on reality dating TV shows before we dive into your experience? Do you think they're a good thing? Do you think they're a bad thing? Is it just entertainment? What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons with reality dating shows. It's become such a cultural norm for us, especially like in America, because there are so many reality dating shows. Everybody's heard of one. Um, we're seeing like new ones popping up all the time, and they all have different premises. I feel like there's some reality dating shows that are probably more like healthy, I guess, to watch than others. There are some that are really like lust focused, and I think those ones are the ones that we really have to be careful about, especially as like disciples of Christ, to not spend so much time focusing on those specific ones. But there's others that are like
You're
more
saying
social.
I shouldn't watch Love Island. That's what you're telling me.
You know, I watched about 2 weeks of Love Island and decided that it was not good for my
That
my
makes sense.
spiritual well being. But um, yeah, I think there's some that have more healthy concepts than others. But the one thing that I do notice is that I don't know if this is a thing for men, but for women, like you can meet a random girl out in public and like if she's watching the same show you're watching, you immediately have something that you can connect with. Like we're humans are social creatures and I feel like pop culture in general, but also like reality shows gives women something to talk about. I know I have a lot of friends that like could relate to that. Just being able to like connect with other girls that you've never met before because you're like watching the same show.
So it's like
Um,
sports for girls.
for sure, yes, that's like the same feeling. I feel like, um, but yeah, I also think reality dating shows, like the world's like obsession with them, just shows us that people still value relationships. People still value connection as much as there are groups of people who say like women don't need men and men don't need women. Like as a like as a whole, we are gravitating towards like wanting connection and wanting partnership.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree. Just as I've been thinking about this episode, I think that's a big reason why reality dating is such a big thing right now is because so many people want that connection and are not finding it. And so they're like, I might as well watch somebody else try and find it, to try and find some form of connection to that aspect of their life.
for
Um,
sure.
let's hear about how you got connected with Provo's Most Eligible and kind of how that all came about. And then we can kind of dive into your experience and kind of go broad picture and maybe work a little bit smaller picture here.
Yeah. So for anyone who's watching who doesn't know what Provo's Most Eligible is, it's a Provo BYU focused dating show that came out. The first two seasons of it came out like years ago, like probably at least like 5 or 6 years ago. I watched them when I was in high school, and I grew up with my parents being like, "You should not watch reality dating shows; they're just lustful and not good." So when Provo's Most Eligible came out, I was like, "This is like a BYU dating show. Like I can watch this one." So I watched them when I was in high school, and I thought they were really entertaining. Um, I felt like something that was like, oh, if I ever had the chance to do that, like I would totally go on a show like that. Um, and so I moved here last year, and the Provo's Most Eligible Instagram account posted that they were like casting a new season. And I was like, you know what? What the heck? I'm just gonna go for it. Like, I'm single, I'm living here. Like, I wanna branch out. I wanna do like fun, spontaneous things while I'm young and while I'm single. And so I applied for it and ended up like moving forward in the casting process and they casted me in it. And yeah, it was pretty like simple. I didn't like do anything crazy to get on it. I just applied and sent in an audition video and they casted me. So
We'll link the audition video down below. No, I'm just kidding. But I would
funny.
be I have not watched it yet because I'm very much against reality dating show, which is why I want to have this conversation. But I would be curious, what is the premise of the show? I mean, I've seen the clips on social media, so I kind of understand a little bit, but even for other people that they just have no idea, like kind of what is the concept of this specific show?
Yeah. So the show that I was in was a mini series from the creators of Provost Most Eligible. So it wasn't the same as the Provost Most Eligible actual show. But the mini series I was on was called The Altar. And um, there's three different like rounds. The first round is you match up with someone without ever seeing them. So you just talk to them through the curtain, um, determine whether or not you want to match up with somebody, and you match up and move on to the
You
next
don't
round.
see them while you're talking to
You
them?
don't see them until you decide that you want to match up with them. Um, and then the second round was like it was considered like the first date. It was essentially you just sat there at a table with everyone watching you and you like answered these question cards and um, they got a little bit like awkward, a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit personal, which I have thoughts about that we could probably get into later. And then the third round, the couples that made it through round two, in the third round, they stood there at the altar with like the host of the show and they answered yes or no questions to see if they would get the same answer. And if the couple that agreed on the most things wins like this prize package because they made it through the whole show. So it was a little bit more of a game show
Mhm.
format than a like some of these other reality shows that are more like just chilling on the beach, getting to know each other, you know?
Yeah, no, So is it, to me, it seems more like those Jubilee shows where they're just like kind of swiping left or right. I've seen a couple of those. Was that kind of more the vein of what it was?
Uh-huh, yeah. And that's actually when they sent me the email that was like, "Hey, we're interested in casting you for this show." They sent me the link to one of the Jubilee shows and they were like, "It's something like this, kind of so you get the idea." So, yeah.
Okay. Good to know. So before
Yeah.
we dive into, and again, I don't know if you care about spoilers or anything, so you can filter that as you feel needed. But before we kind of hear about your experience, I just kind of want to share maybe real fast why I want to do this specific episode because I used to be a huge fan of reality dating shows. Like in high school, me and my mom were so like pro Bachelor. We watched every single episode. Me and all my friends, obviously not my guy friends, my girlfriends in high school, like every episode would come out and we were talking about it the next day at school. Like I used to love these shows and I was like just so hooked. Anyways, I come home from my mission. I don't even remember what season it was of The Bachelor, but I was like, I'll give it a try again. Like I'll watch it. And I just remember this one couple, they're like the final three or final two or whatever. And for those of you that watch Bachelor, like when you get to the final couple rounds, you have the fantasy suite nights, whatever, just cause all sorts of drama. And I remember there's the girl, the Bachelorette, and the guy. They're just clearly soulmates. Like you could just feel it. Like these people are supposed to be together, and because of the fantasy suite BS, there's just a bunch of drama, and they didn't end up together. The girl picked someone, they broke up a few months later. Anyway, so I was just like, that was so lame that this TV show got in the way of like what I felt was perceived as genuine soulmates. And since then, I've been done. I'm like, I'm not supporting this anymore because it's hard enough to find love. I don't need this messing up with it. Anyway, so I had that kind of moment. I will watch Love on the Spectrum. That show is incredible. That's the best dating show of all time. But other ones, I don't really support them that much. But I think, like we've mentioned before, it does say something about society that we are so captivated by this. And I think that if we could turn it into more of a positive experience, especially in our intake of it and maybe how it perceives our dating worlds, I think that would be really helpful. And so that's why I want to do this episode today, so we can kind of create maybe a healthier environment. And I think Provo's Most Eligible is a step in the right direction. And so I think that's great. So will you kind of walk us through your experience? I know you kind of walked through how the show works, but maybe kind of start with that round one, how it went, the date, and then the altar, and then I'll just ask questions and we can kind of dissect that a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good. Um, the first thing that I showed up to set that day, was not exactly sure how things were gonna go, but I did know the first episode or the first part that we would film was like the blind, um, what's it called? Like the blind matching up. And it's interesting because like I I knew this was gonna be like filmed. And so I was like, I kind of want to match up with someone tall because I'm tall. And I just feel like it'd be awkward if I like matched up with some guy that's like 5 feet tall and I'm 6 feet tall and it would just be kind of awkward. Um, and so I was like waiting to hear because we essentially like a girl would get up and introduce herself and whatever guys were interested would stand up and then they'd introduce themselves and she'd pick someone and then they would switch. And I was kind of waiting to hear from one of the guys that sounded like interesting to me. And this one guy said he was 6'2", and then he also said he like had a career and seems like a sales bro, and that's kind of my type of person.
There you
And
go.
so
That's your type.
and I was like, okay, like sounds like I'll stand up for this guy. And I got a chance to introduce myself and he ended up picking me. So I didn't have a ton of time in that first round because I got matched up pretty fast. But I ended up matching up with a guy that um, I like, he sounded cool. And then I met him and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cute. So
What
like
was
the,
what was that like before you saw him? Because like that, whenever I've seen clips of Love Is Blind, I'm just like, this concept is so cool, but I know my brain would never let me like fully jump into that. What was that like for you? Just taking the looks element totally out of it.
I was really nervous because I think the culture behind dating that we have is like very much of like what if there's a better option, and I think that's partially created by dating apps, partially created by um like social media, and kind of just always wondering like is there somebody better out there. And when you're only hearing someone like from the other side of the curtain, I was like, I wonder, like, should I be standing up for this guy, like trying to match with him so early on, or should I wait a little bit longer to see if there's somebody who like sounds better? But I very much was just like, you know what, like this is a game. Like I'm not going to take this too seriously. I'm just going to
Mhm.
go for it. Like this guy does sound interesting, and so I was a little nervous, but also was like, they're not going to cast like wildly unattractive people for a
They
dating.
pull the curtain. You're like, are you serious? No, I'm
Well, yeah, I was lucky. They cast some really great people, guys and girls. So it was a good time. But
I would yeah, before we go to the second round, I would just love your thoughts on any antidotes to that mentality of like, because it is true, you'll be swiping on the apps and you meet someone pretty cool and pretty nice, and you go on a date and you have a good time, and you're like, but there could be better. Do you have any antidotes or just thoughts on potentially shifting that mindset a little bit? Because like our grandparents, they had like four options, and they just were like, all right, I'll pick this one, and they got married, and it was great. And now we have thousands, hundreds of thousands, and it's so hard to be confident in a decision. Any thoughts on that?
yeah, I feel like I fall into that sometimes too. Like I think we all do. The biggest thing for me that helps, I think, is not thinking too far ahead. I think in this culture within there's a kind of a culture within the church where it's like, okay, I have to like get married. Like that is the next step. And so you go into a first, second, third date thinking like, am I going to marry this person? And I think when you're just barely getting to know someone, like there's no way of knowing that. And so I think that's where a little bit of that mindset comes in is like, well, what if there's a better option? Because like, I don't want to commit to this person if like there's somebody better, like more attractive, more interesting, funnier, whatever it might be. Um, but I think it stems from this place where we're like thinking that we would have to commit to them very early on in the process. And at least personally, like I try to take that out of the equation when I'm going on a first date, second date, like getting to know someone. Is like I don't have to marry this person. Like all I'm committing to right now is getting to know them. I don't need to worry about is there a better option for me down the line because that doesn't matter right now. And so I think changing that mindset a little bit. I've gone on a lot of first dates that feel like interviews where a guy will just like spend 60 minutes asking me questions about myself, and then at the end he decides that I'm not his wife and never talks to me again. And I'm like, what was this? This was a
Right.
job interview? I'm confused. So
Could have just gave you my resume. We could have
yeah,
skipped this.
exactly. I'm like, what the heck? So I feel like a possible anecdote for that issue is just like not worrying about like, is this person my husband or is this person my wife, like on a first or second date? Because I just don't think that's where your mind should be when you're just trying to get to know somebody. But
Yeah. That's a realization I've had over just the last couple of weeks, just as I've been pondering about all of these fun issues. Is just like if you're really worried about finding the right person, you have to get to know them first. And if you get to know somebody, then it's like, okay, I can make my decision there. But I think that headspace becomes so toxic when it is just about looks. Can I find somebody that's better looking? I think that's where it's causing a lot of issues. Because like if you get to know somebody, you just don't connect as people, that's fine, and that's pretty easy to figure out. But when you're just focused on, oh man, like can I find somebody more attractive or taller or
mhm.
blonder or whatever it might be, like that, I think that's probably where the pendulum has swung probably too far. So,
Yeah,
well, all right,
true.
what happened in the second round?
So moved on to the second round. It's really interesting because between like filming the first round and filming the second round, because we did all the filming on one day, they had us eat lunch because it was lunchtime, and they were like, "Don't talk to any of the like opposite gender of the cast." They were like, "We want all of your interactions to be on camera," which makes sense. Like they're making a show for the audience, and so they wanted to make sure that like all the getting to know each other was on the camera, which is something I noticed, and I'm sure this applies to a lot of reality dating shows, is that like they're not making decisions in the best interest for the cast and the individuals on the show. Oftentimes they're making decisions, production is making decisions with the best interest of the viewers and the audience and what's going to make good TV. Um, with that being said, moving into the second round, we were like sitting at a table, like asking each other questions that were just on cards. And these questions You probably saw there was a clip of me that went viral. Um, and the question was like, "Are you a virgin? Why?" And I
Nice.
had to answer that, and I was like, "This is
First
so
date.
wildly uncomfortable, and not very appropriate to be asking someone when you're just like barely meeting them." But I understand like it made for good, interesting television, and so that's why they did it. Um, and what was really sad was that clip that went viral, it went viral because the boy that I had matched with, who's sitting across from me, looked very like he was judging me for my answer.
Mm,
Because I answered that I, keep the law of chastity, like it's just something that's important to me. Um, but in reality, he was just uncomfortable by the question. He wasn't judging me at all for my answer. He was just uncomfortable that he was then going to have to answer that question. Um, which I think brings up this idea that a lot of reality dating shows aren't actually real. You have no idea like what is going on when the camera's not there, or what's going on in someone's head,
mhm.
and it's really easy to edit something a certain way to get views and to get clicks, which is, I think, kind of what they did. I don't know if they did that intentionally or not, but it went wildly viral because it looked like he was judging me, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's judging her," which he wasn't. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, that's definitely like, I mean, you have an hour show or whatever. I'm sure there's hours of
Yeah.
content and discussions, and you just don't see everything that goes into that. I would be curious your thoughts on maybe questions that maybe are better that lead to actual connection. Obviously, that's probably never going to happen. I hope that is not happening on first dates, that people are asking that question. But any thoughts on questions when you're getting to know somebody? Again, I'm kind of using the format of the show to then also then
Mhm.
apply into our dating life. So first and second dates from a girl's perspective, what are questions you ask guys or what are questions that guys ask you that you're like, this to me leads to really good, genuine connection. It's not awkward. It's not interview questions. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think specifically like with the questions they asked on the show, like the intention was not to get to know each other. The intention was to make good television. I think they do that in a lot of reality dating shows, unfortunately. But I think like in real life, like when you're going on dates, um, it's hard because you want to get to know somebody, because obviously like a lot of YSAs, young single adults our age, are like dating to marry, right? So you want to like get to know somebody and whether or not they would be someone you're interested in long term, but you also don't want to fall into the is this person my husband on a first date. Um so I just feel like I honestly like, what questions do I like being asked? Give me a second here.
No, you're good. Maybe I'll share some insights while you think. One of the things that I really struggled with first coming home from my mission was I had just spent 2 years, on exchanges, basically asking interview questions to other missionaries. And so that was kind of my practice of a date. You're on a car driving to a lesson, driving to service. And a lot of the times, unless you're really comfortable with that person, it's just kind of where are you from? What areas have you served in? All these type of kind of surface level stuff. So I think diving right back into the dating realm, that was kind of more where my question centered. But I remember going through right now I'm a seminary teacher and going through the pre-service program. One of my pre-service trainers, he told me, he's like, in this, he was talking about teaching seminary. He says when a student is like sharing something with you, he's like, just pretend they're in a car with you. It's just you and them. And what would you be genuinely curious about what they're saying? Like, what would you like really want to know to ask follow-up questions? And for me, I've told him this so many times. I said, dude, that's not only changed like my ability to be a good teacher, but it's changed my like dating. Because I said now instead of just looking for different random questions like what's your favorite color or what superpower would you have? Like to me, as we're talking, I'm genuinely listening with curiosity, and that's led to so many more insightful questions. So I know that's not a specific question, but for me, that principle has absolutely changed my dating. Has it helped me have better dates? Absolutely not. But I feel like I'm connecting with people better. So I mean,
Yeah.
has it led to better outcomes? No. But has it for me led to better connections? Yes.
Yes, I agree completely. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking those like get to know you questions. as you're getting to know someone because you got to have something to go off of. But I definitely think the skill of listening and the skill of like asking questions and active listening, not just like listening with your ears and then saying what you thought, but like actively listening to someone, making sure you're understanding them, and then responding thoughtfully is a very important skill to have, not just in dating, but in life. That's how you like ace a job interview, is like actively listening and thoughtfully responding. And I think that's a great, helpful comment, helpful tip.
How would you get? Because I think a lot of people struggle with when to have the serious conversations. Not necessarily are you a virgin or anything, but
Yeah.
like I mean, I'm sure you can get that at some point. But more like I think that's what a lot of people in Utah County are struggling with is like, oh, I want to have this conversation soon, or we never have it, and then it's just a situationship for 8 years, and then you're just like, this is
Mm-hmm.
ruining my life. And so like what would be your advice or thoughts on kind of getting a better gauge in our dating culture of when to start having maybe more serious conversations about what is this or what are your intentions, kind of things like that.
Yeah. I think there's multiple ways to go about it. I'm a big fan of like very early and honest communication. I've been on dates before, like first and second dates, where I get asked like, "What are you looking for?" like out of dating, and I think that's a very like good way to understand what the person you're on a date with is like wanting, because I've definitely been in that situation where I've like talked to a guy or gone out with a guy for a while before realizing that he's actually not looking for anything serious, versus going out with a guy and on the first date he's like, hey, by the way, like, what are you looking for? Because I'm looking to like date to build a connection and then eventually find someone that I want to marry. And I'm like, that's a much, I think personally that's a better way to go about it, because you're just being upfront and honest. And like, if you are having those deeper conversations, that deeper connection, not necessarily the conversation about like what is this, like a DTR, but
Hmm.
like having those deep conversations about the gospel, about things that are important to you, your hopes, dreams, wishes, your past, your traumas, like all of these things that are really important when you're like getting to know somebody and ultimately deciding whether or not you want to like pursue a long-term relationship. That can be really helpful to know if you feel safe going into those conversations, knowing, oh, this person is like emotionally available for a relationship eventually versus this person is not wanting a relationship eventually. Um, I think knowing that pretty upfront creates a better, I don't know, a more healthy relationship long term.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
think, and again, like it's hard because there's no set like boundary, like, oh, this is the date you should do it, and you can do that. But I think as a general principle, asking those questions can kind of help you see a little bit how serious they are. And I think a lot of people just avoid that, or if they ask those questions and they're like, oh, I don't know, I'm just messing around. I think sometimes we ignore that. But I think as a general guideline, again, this isn't for every single situation. But if someone's not willing to have those conversations with you, in a non-aggressive way, like we probably
Yeah.
don't need to be having those on first dates, probably not even second dates, probably not even third. But maybe after that, like if someone's not willing to have those conversations with you, it's probably a pretty good sign of where their head's at. And if they are, again, doesn't mean that they're your soulmate, but it means that they're probably in a similar headspace. So I think using that guideline to kind of help you understand, like, oh, okay, if they're willing to have these conversations, if they're open to it, is pretty good. Any thoughts for the guys on how to do that as non-aggressive as possible? I think especially our we love them, but our 20, 21-year-old, 22 return missionaries, they come home, they're like, I've set a goal. Here's my promised blessing. Will you marry me? Any tips on how to maybe chill out and maybe not be so aggressive in our approach to those conversations?
Yeah, I feel like honestly, I mean, those 20, 21-year-old boys who come right home and find a wife and want to get married, like it works for them. Like they find a girl that likes that tactic. So that works great for them, when it works. But I think like just letting a girl know, like, I'm not like asking you these questions and like wanting to know where you're at in dating because I want to like marry you this instant, and just like being very reassuring of like, oh, I'm being honest and being upfront. I think it honestly just comes with a lot of emotional intelligence that is not always developed until you're like in your mid 20s. I wouldn't say I'm like the most emotionally intelligent person in the world. Definitely not. And
I
my
am
brain's
now because I'm
still
26,
developing.
so I'm fully
Yeah, your
developed.
brain's fully developed. Good
I'm
for you.
done. Yeah,
Congrats.
thank you.
Um, but I think like just having that like emotional intelligence to like read the room and understand like, okay, this girl specifically like is gonna take it in this way, and so I need to say it in this way. I just feel like it's gonna be situational, but
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, let's go to stage three or whatever, round three. Kind of what was
yes,
your experience with the altar? That's pretty serious.
yeah. So I actually got eliminated in round two.
Okay, I don't know how it worked. Okay.
Yeah,
Anyways,
so they eliminate for
sorry to
round.
bring that up.
Okay. Well, it's kind of funny because as I was watching, because I didn't stay for the filming of round three, I could have stayed and watched, but I didn't. Um, there was actually like a boy on that round that made it to that round that I was like, oh, I would be interested in getting to know that boy and not the boy that I had matched with originally. As I was watching it and some of his answers, I was like, oh, this person like seems like they align really well with me. Um, and it was just kind of interesting in hindsight, like seeing that. Um,
That didn't help the stigma of there might be somebody better having that
it
experience.
all nope. Well, it's funny too. This might be a little bit I'll be curious to see if this boy sees this, but there's two boys. One that I was like, okay, I'd be interested in getting to know this boy after the show. I never talked to him, nothing ever happened of it. And there was another boy on the show that I had gone out with on a date with previous to the show. We neither of us knew that the other person was on it, but he was there. Um, and his answers and my answers would have been all the same if I had like made it to that round. And we would have been compatible, like just based on those answers to those questions. Um, but he had ghosted me like a month previous. And I just think it's interesting, another point on that comment of like, there's always someone better. That like he and I would have been compatible if he had
Mhm.
stuck around. But for some reason he ghosted, and it just kind of like it's those mind games that happen when you're dating. But
Any thoughts on like kind of the feelings that came up as you got eliminated or maybe how that's connected to rejection in the real world? Because like you see the crying car scene in The Bachelor and Bachelorette, and I just feel so bad for them. Like, and
yeah,
it's just like, but it is a microcosm of what it kind of actually feels like sometimes. So any thoughts or takeaways from that experience for you of being eliminated kind of maybe in a more public setting?
yeah, it was really interesting because um, both me and the guy that I got matched up with like were both eliminated at the same time. So it wasn't necessarily like we were kind of getting rejected by the show and not by each other. Um, but it was funny because they asked me in my little exit interview if I would go out on a date with him in the future. And I was like, yeah, definitely. Like, he's a cute boy. Watching it back, I was like, I'm not sure why I said that because I'm not sure we would really be compatible. But in the moment, I was like, oh, he's cute. Like, yeah, I'd go on a date with him. And then they asked him the same question, and he basically was like, well, she's like pretty, but I just probably not. Maybe like something casual. Like, I wouldn't be doing anything serious.
Oh my
And I was like,
gosh.
okay, thanks for that. Like, I'm right here. Um, but I did leave feeling like a little bit rejected, and a little bit like, oh, maybe if I had like done this differently or said this differently, then maybe like he would have been interested in getting to know me. But I think it all just comes down to the fact that like we like perceived rejection has nothing to do with us and everything to do with someone else. Like if I was in his shoes and I just wasn't that interested in a guy, like I it wouldn't be because there was anything wrong with him. It would probably be because like it's just not like he's just not my person.
Hmm.
Um, there's this analogy I heard that like if you get an Amazon package delivered to your door with someone else's name on it, like that Amazon package isn't like offended that you didn't pick it. It just wasn't for me. Like it wasn't my Amazon package.
Sometimes
Um,
I just keep them. I'm like, well, they came here. No,
you
I'm
know
just
what?
kidding. No, I'm
For
just
you. But like it has nothing to do with me that package wasn't mine. Like it just wasn't mine. It was someone else's. Um and maybe that's like not a great analogy,
No, it's
But I
great, but
have
my
like
packages keep getting sent to the wrong house. So I don't know how do I get in contact with the Amazon driver.
I don't know, man. Sounds like a problem.
Yeah, no, it is.
Anyway, but like I think sometimes we make rejection about us when in reality, like rejection is it's not about us. It's just how things are. We can't control it. It's not personal. And that was kind of the mindset I had to have going out of there because as much as like I wasn't his Amazon package, it's probably not my Amazon package either. We're meant for other people,
Mhm.
you know? Um, and I think that can be hard when you get rejected a lot. Because I don't know about dudes. There probably are a lot of dudes that experience this too. But some girls get rejected a lot. Like it's just guy after guy after guy after guy that's not interested in them. And it can start to feel really personal. Um, and so it's just kind of this trying to have this shift of mindset of like, it's not me. It's just that I'm not for that person and that person's not for me. I don't know.
No, the longer I go to therapy, the more I realize that rejection most of the time is usually more about the other person than anything that you did wrong or right or whatever it might be. But there are situations where you can, self-improve or learn from it. How do you think we better balance that of holding space for both? Of this probably wasn't me. It probably, had a lot more to do with them. But also, what can I learn from this in a healthy way to improve or whatever it might be, or to, just gain more experience? Any thoughts on how to do that more healthy? Because I think most of our dating culture just swings all the way over to the side of it's me. I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm not tall enough, I'm not rich enough, all those things. I think we hold that space like 90% compared to 10%. It's like maybe they have some issues going on. How do you think we kind of bring it back to more maybe 50-50?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with um, where you find your identity and where your confidence is at. That if you are confident in your identity as um, a daughter or son of God, and you know who you are and what you deserve and what you're looking for, and you're really clear with yourself on that, it makes it a lot easier to not take it personal, not make it about you. Um, because like you were saying, like it's most likely the other person just looking for something different, or maybe they're not ready, or I don't know, whatever it is. Um, but at the end of the day, like you have to have faith that God has something better for you, has something or someone really great for you. Um, and you just have to have the faith to be patient, which gets really tough sometimes, having that faith to be patient and waiting for that promise and that blessing that the Lord has. Um, but I know for me personally, like that's the biggest thing that's helped me with facing rejection. Because it seems like even in like the last year, it's just gotten like so much worse, like just more rejection than I had been experiencing before. But just trusting that like for every like person that's not for me, I'm just like one step closer to like finding the person who is for me.
Mhm.
Um, as far as like taking away like ways that I can improve from rejection, I don't typically do that. Maybe that's why I'm still single, but like I don't
That's so
always want to
interesting.
know reason. Like I don't want to know why someone's not interested in me
Seriously? You
because
don't want to know at all.
no, because well, one guy told me one time and he was like, "You're just like really talkative and like a big personality and I'm just looking for a girl that's more like timid and quiet." And I was like, "I can't and won't change that about
That is a
myself."
huge red flag, by the
So,
way. But anyways,
as long as I am like happy and confident with how I showed up on the date, if I was a polite, kind, Christ-like human and they weren't about it, like I don't need to worry about like what I did wrong or how I can be different because in that moment I felt like I showed up
mm,
as like the best version of myself. Now, if I didn't show up as the best version of myself, that's where I like go to the Lord and we figure it out together of what I can do better to be more Christ-like, which is a consistent thing that I am always trying to do. But I don't think a dude who rejects me's opinion of me really matters that much. I think the Lord's opinion might
Mhm.
matter a little bit more.
In my little 6 month it's probably more than 6 months, it's been 8 months now. Anyways, my little hiatus, the more confident and set I am in where I'm going and who I'm trying to become, and really trying to internalize all these, pent up emotions, all these things. The more I realize that maybe it isn't as much rejection anymore as it's just not the right person, and I'm more confident that I can either find that person or that it's okay if it doesn't work out because it wasn't compatible. And so I think the more you, and it sounds backwards, but the more you work on yourself, the more confident you are in yourself, the easier it is to handle rejection. So it's almost like the balance maybe isn't taking feedback from that person, but it's saying what feedback is my body, is my vibes, is my, whatever telling me.
That concept of like really getting to be good with yourself. At least for me personally, like the biggest change that's happened in my life is like really having that relationship with Christ. And I feel like as I have a personal relationship with him, I'm more confident that like when I meet the right guy, that we will be able to have a Christ-centered relationship. Because at the end of the day, like that's what reality shows are missing. Like it's not that they met on reality TV that they're not working out. It's because they don't have a Christ-centered relationship. And I think that's why a lot of marriages and relationships in the world don't work is because Christ's not involved. And we know that like anything built on Christ can stand and will have a firm foundation. Um, and so as you get close to him and you find someone else who's close to him, it like creates like a triangle like relationship instead of just like two people trying to figure it out on their own because that's just set up to fail, you know?
Kind of wrapping up, any takeaways or ways that you've had a different perspective or actions since this reality dating TV show experience where you're like, I'm doing this a little bit differently in my dating, or my perspective is different in this way. Any kind of application that you're like, I'm glad I did this because of this, because it's helped me in this way. Any kind of thoughts on that, on your takeaways from this experience?
Um, it was kind of interesting because we filmed in like February or March, and it didn't come out until just this summer. And in that time, I don't know if it was really like catapulted by my experience. I'm not sure exactly what happened that like changed my mindset on this, but I've stopped dating in like a desperate way. And I've just kind of started dating with this concept of like, do I want to go out with this person? Do I want to get to know this person? I'm not going out of my way to like, um, I don't know, validate relationships or connections that aren't there or with the types of boys that I don't deserve my attention, I guess. Um, and so I think it's come from a place of like being more confident in myself and knowing that like I'm not everybody's cup of tea and not everyone is my cup of tea and that's okay. Um, I don't know. I don't know what about the dating show did that, but I think there was something in there with that experience that like made me just want to kind of take a step back and like just entertain dating experiences that are like when I want to. Whether that's like boys that are really great guys and deserve my time or just like prioritizing my relationship with the Lord over dating.
How
But
do What does the application of that look like? Like, how do you remind yourself of that, or how do you shift your mindset from? I think a lot of people in Utah, their dating mindset is, I can't remember the word you used. It was like urgent, or anyways, whatever. You were just saying
desperate?
desperate. Yes. I think that would be a good key phrase for kind of dating in Utah, is if it's a very desperate feeling, kind of how do you actually shift your mindset to kind of more of an abundance mindset where you're like, whatever comes to me is great. Like, 'cause I think that would be very healthy.
Yeah. I think it's all come with like an increased relationship with Christ and like having faith that like I will get married someday and that I will find my person and that it's going to be really great because I think the desperation and this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I have to go on like 2 dates every week or I'm never going to get married and I have to be swiping on mutual every single day or else I'm not going to meet anybody. I think that, at least for me, was coming out of a place of feeling desperate and not out of a place of like having high faith. And so, at least for me, that's been the big change, is just like really fostering that relationship with my Savior over the last few months. I've had some really huge life changes that have kind of forced me to do that, which is how the Lord works for me. He just gives me really hard things that force me to go to Him. Um, but at least for me, that was the just like taking a good look at my intentions behind why I was doing the things I was doing. I wasn't swiping on mutual because I was gonna find a husband. I was swiping because it felt like this is what I have to do or else I'm never gonna get married. And it was not the right mindset behind it. So I feel like taking a step back, getting really intentional with how you're dating and why you're dating, um, is really helpful.
If you are somebody who right now is listening and they're saying, I am not doing that, like, 'cause I think a lot of people, the shift starts to happen eventually. But what advice would you do to try and
Yeah.
like shake somebody out of that headspace of like, hey, like it's okay. Like what advice would you give yourself a year ago or 2 years ago to kind of maybe speed up that? I mean, not speed up in a bad way, but like let's get to a healthier spot of kind of attacking this dating plan.
Yeah. I feel like something really tangible that you can do is start journaling. I don't journal all of the time, but when I'm feeling very complex emotions, the only way for me to work those emotions out is to journal them. So whether that's like getting my phone out with the notes app and clicking the little like speech to text button and just talking for like 5 minutes, just talking my feelings out, getting it out of my head. A lot of times that looks like me talking to my phone and being like, I feel frustrated because this thing happened and this thing happened and this thing happened. And I feel disappointed because this didn't go how I wanted it to go. And just being really clear with my feelings. And then going and taking that to the Lord and being like, this is how I felt today about this dating situation or this thing that happened. Um, Being mindful. That's a really great mindfulness
Mhm.
technique, to get mindful with your emotions, and then going in like once you get all of those like anxious, unsure, um, frustrated, disappointed emotions out of you as far as dating goes, I think it makes it easier to be intentional with your choices, because then the frustration is going in your journal and to the Lord instead of into your dating choices.
Right. So just as you're talking, it's like to me, I'm sure it happens, but I'm sure it's very hard for an emotionally regulated person to do anything in a state of desperation. But somebody who is not emotionally regulated and their emotions are going crazy and whatever it might be, I think that's a very clear sign of, oh, that person probably is doing a lot of things in their life out of a sense of desperation just because emotionally or mentally they're not regulated. And so like you're saying, trying to find more mindfulness practices, trying to find more opportunities to, let emotions out, I think is a great place to start to say, hey, what can I do to get to more of a place of confidence and just acceptance versus desperation. um Final question for the girls out there and some guys that watch reality dating shows or anything like that. What do you think we need to start doing to have a healthier environment or consumption or all those type of things of these dating shows or even just kind of takeaways that you're like, I wish more girls would do this when we watch them, whatever it might be.
Yeah. I think the big thing is understanding like that it's not real. It's called reality, but it's not actually real. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes with production, produce and editing that make things look different than how they are. Um, Understanding that like the way these people are going about communicating with each other on these dating shows is 9 times out of 10 not going to be a Christ-like way of communicating. We shouldn't be emulating the way that these relationships are, evolving in these dating shows, because they're not evolving in a Christ-like way. Um, it's really easy when that's the only like form of dating that you're watching, because we don't like go and watch Christ-like relationships unfold ever. Like
That's
you
not
hear
super
about them, but you don't
entertaining.
watch them. yeah, it's not super entertaining, but it's healthy.
Hmm.
And it's the only way to like have a really healthy like gospel foundation relationship is like when you put Christ at the center, which they're not doing on these shows. And so going if you're gonna watch them, like going in with a mindful attitude that's like, oh my gosh, this couple's so cute, but they just had this huge like fight. But it's like, okay, this isn't how I need to be dating. This is just entertainment. And it could be edited or what's the word? Like uh like manipulated to look different than how it is.
If more people who are viewing these through Reels, through Instagram, through whatever it might be, TV shows, if more people came into it with the mindset of kind of maybe more separating it from what real dating looks like, what real relationships looks like, what outcome do you think that would have on our dating society?
I think that not only with making that separation, you also then have to go actively seek out better examples of it. I know a lot of people who like have served missions like have a really good example in their mission president and his wife, or in their parents, grandparents, your bishop and his wife, like whoever that is, like going and asking those people for advice and being proactive and like not only are we like separating ourselves from like we're recognizing this is the what not to do, but then we also have to go and find the what to do's, like what does a Christ-centered relationship look like, what does that look like at the beginning stages of dating. um I don't know if that answers the actual question you asked, but that was just what came to mind.
I love that advice. I think if we had a reality show of these mission presidents and their wives, or just these people that you're just around them and you just like feel loved and you're like, man, that's what I want. Or you go into somebody's house and you just feel it. If we had more shows like that, we would be in a great spot. And so I think trying to find more people like that, again, you don't even have to be in the reality dating show to try and find that. But if you're a single person trying to find more examples of people like that so that you have something to model that after. Because unfortunately, a lot of us maybe don't come from homes or parents or have a lot of examples. So saying, who can I find that I admire how they, treat each other, or how I admire how they communicate, and how can I spend time with them? How can I find more of their goodness in my life? Or even trying to use that as a gauge of watching some of these shows is this,
For
something
sure.
that I would want in my life? Do I want my husband going on fantasy suite nights with three other girls? Probably not. So maybe is this a great show for me? No. But do I want love on the spectrum and he writes me a song, or she writes me a song on our anniversary? Yes, that's absolutely what I want. And so maybe trying to use that more as a gauge of that. But any final
For sure.
thoughts to all basically everyone in Utah, Arizona, Idaho, all of them listen to this. So this is your chance. Any final thoughts on dating culture, or any kind of things that you're like, I want to make sure that I say this?
Work on your relationship with the Savior, work on your relationship with you, and just know that your person is coming. They're somewhere. They're probably coming soon. Maybe they're just around the corner. And if they're not, that's okay too. Just keep going and stay strong. And just remember that you're a child of God and that no amount of rejection will ever change that.
Yeah. I think that's important to remember is rejection doesn't change your worth, that I think sometimes we do attach it to that, but that's a great reminder. If somebody has any questions for you about the show, or they just want to reach out to you, is there a good place that they can do that?
I would recommend my Instagram DMs. I don't know if you can edit it on the screen, but it's Alyssa with three S's dot Alyssa. I would love to talk to you about your dating experiences. If you need any advice, I mean, I'm not the expert. I'm still single, but
There you go. Goes down in the DMs. So I love it. Well, thank you so
guess so.
much for coming
Yeah,
on
of
the show
course.
today. I appreciate it's not really a fun topic to talk about, so sometimes it's kind of vulnerable, and it's obviously I'd love to come on here and share all these amazing dating stories, and unfortunately that's just not reality. And so I appreciate you being willing to come on here and share your thoughts and experiences and helping us create
Right.
a more healthy dating world because it's not fun all the time. And so anything that anyone else can do to try and help that is very meaningful to me. So thank you so much.
Of course. This was a good conversation.
Good conversation. And there will just be more of them.
Oh,
So this has been episode 13 of the Relationship Comeback. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on them all. We're just going to continue to grow and continue to try and create a better environment for everybody involved. And so until next time, where we're continuing to learn to become the one, to attract the one, we'll see y'all next time.